Well, welcome in. My name is Bryce Koon, live here on the Crowded Booth. It is a Wednesday night, October 16th, 2024, and we're rocking and rolling into week 8 of college football. It's going to be myself. It's going to be Will Manis and another special guest. No, not the leprechaun that was on last week per you people, but he's still with the On3 network, and he's got some he's got a score to settle, I think, with some conversations with you Georgia Tech fans. So it'll be fun. We'll catch you here on the other side of this. See you here in a second.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
All right, we're rocking and rolling here on a Wednesday evening. My name is Bryce Koon, Will Manis, and the esteemed guest tonight. Palmer, we had on an On3 counterpart, my guy Matthew Bruni down here with the LSU side. He hopped on. He went 0 for 1 in his best bets.
I like now that I know who it is. I like that y'all that he was described as a leprechaun.
Well, and that was mostly due to it says Ben Moore. No, how about Palmer Thumbs? Apparently, that's your name per what we got going on tonight. But hey, we're going to talk about some stuff, and we're going to talk about things that some Georgia Tech fans will be interested in. But Palmer, we appreciate you taking the time, man. Obviously, before you get ready for a big road trip, I'll ask you this, and I remember you told me at SEC Media Days or somewhere around then that you guys had a special trip planned out to Austin. Is that still the plan? Like, are y'all doing that still? Okay.
No, we're not. We were in conversations about doing an RV trip out to Austin. If that was the case, I think we would already be on the road. And I'm counting my blessings that we are not doing that, less because of the trip out there and more because of the trip back. I would have bought my own way home for that. But no, we leave tomorrow morning, though. We are getting out there early and going to get to take in Austin, Texas, the Lone Star State. So I'm excited.
Got to go get some Terry Black's, man. You got to go get some Terry Black's barbecue.
I've heard every suggestion that there is in the world for this weekend. So
yeah. So pretty much he said, screw you, and I'll do what I want. Those On3 guys, you got to love them. Bruni did go 0 for 1, by the way, in his best bet picks. If you have one that you'd like to throw out there, you can towards, the end of your segment. But we're going to talk with Palmer here about a lot of different things. Obviously, Georgia, Texas. But Palmer, Jonesy says you could have thumbed your own way home. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to mean, but Palmer had some
couple different directions.
Palmer had some crude comments, by the way, before the show started. Very uncharacteristic of Mr. Thombs. I put words in his mouth.
And no, it was not calling Georgia Tech a bunch of sellouts.
Speaking of, here we go. Well, perfect segue. Georgia Tech has moved to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in 2025. I would like to credit the source. The source knows who they are. Credit. Good job. Nice job, everyone, on this. But Palmer, your opening thoughts. You and I were kind of texting about this as the news broke. It was obviously something that is for Georgia fans. I mean, like I tweeted this. Like for Georgia fans, this is awesome. It's going to be the 19th time you get to play in that stadium that year. It's going to be a lot of fun. You get to have a larger ticket allotment, I would imagine, as well. Kind of talk about from your perspective, what's your vantage point of the move for Georgia fans? What was the reaction?
For Georgia fans, they were pumped. I mean, a way to get more people into. I mean, this was called a home type series now. Georgia Tech is a bunch of losers, and it's a loser move to move your biggest rivalry game from your home stadium to a neutral site where I don't know what the ticketing process is going to be, but it's not a part of Georgia Tech season tickets. And thus Georgia fans are going to buy these tickets up. Not that they weren't buying up tickets at Bobby Dodd anyway, because that's all red and black when Georgia comes into town. But, like I said, I think Georgia Tech is a bunch of sellouts. And it's not that coming from a Georgia perspective, and I know that sounds crazy to be like, oh, well, your biggest rivalry games played off campus and at a neutral site, you're a bunch of sellouts. Yeah, Georgia's been doing that for years and years and years. But, I think that this move in Georgia Tech's mind is part of the new landscape of college football, and Georgia's is part of the traditional landscape of college football. They have traditionally played in Jacksonville, and people have learned to love that. Playing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium is just, to me, it's like, why do it? Like, I understand the move from a money perspective, but, I just think that it's a shame that this game is moving off campus. That's the best press box that there is out there, selfishly, now that Georgia has moved theirs. So I was always enjoy watching that game. I thought last year was a really great environment, and to move it to a stale environment like Mercedes-Benz Stadium is not going to be as special when it comes to clean old-fashioned hate.
Yeah, you and I talked about it. I mean, that was a great environment, last year inside Bobby Dodd. The place was rocking. Yes, there were more Georgia fans there, but there was a contingent of Georgia Tech, especially the students, that were very loud and made it a good home atmosphere for the Jackets. I'll say this, and I'll pass it over to you because you've got a different viewpoint of this, being the businessman that you are. You talk about why, like the reason why. And, Jonesy comes back with one of the great all-time comebacks, I guess we could say, Palmer. He goes, I think you have caterpillars for eyebrows. So there you go. It is what it is. In all seriousness, I don't like it. Like, if I'm a Georgia Tech fan, I hate this. I'm tired of them playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in terms of losing the art of a home game. Like, I hate that vantage point. But from a business perspective, I understand it. And I know we were talking about this right before we went on air. This is the necessary sacrifice that a program like Georgia Tech has to make in order to compete with the college football. Like, you would not see the Alabamas, the Tennessee. You wouldn't see an SEC school outside of Vanderbilt having to potentially do this. Like, Vandy might play a game at Nissan Stadium. Maybe. But
are they going to play Tennessee at Nissan Stadium?
I don't know. I don't know.
No,
I don't. Probably not. But to the point, and necessary evil that they have to do.
And Bryce, you're getting at what you're getting at is that Georgia Tech is bringing in more money and just accepting the fact that they probably would have lost this game regardless of where it's played. And from that perspective, I do understand that.
God,
tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong that Georgia Tech is probably losing this game if it's at you're giving up your home field advantage because it doesn't matter, because you're going to lose regardless. And you'd say, hey, that's fine. We're going to take our money and run. And that's that.
Yeah.
And I completely understand it from a business perspective, from a college football. This is now the second straight time I'm coming on talking about, college football and shame on the sport that we all love.
Yeah,
it's just another ramification of the world that we're living in college football now.
I want to say
it's almost like an acceptance. You're going to lose the game, and you're going to have less fans in the stands in your own home stadium.
But you're going to make more money.
Yeah, you are. You're gonna make a few more million for sure. But to me, there's some things that you don't do, and you don't give up a home game against your in-state rival. You don't give your in-state rival 3 straight home games. Because that's essentially what this move does. You give Georgia 3 straight home games. We've seen Georgia fans pack out Mercedes-Benz Stadium countless times, and they're going to do it again for this game. And it really hurts the Georgia Tech fans. I'll tell you what, though, the spin zone on Twitter on this from the Georgia Tech fans has been incredible. I got to say, great work on the spin zone there. But it's been fun to read.
It's necessary for a business perspective. And I think just with the background of knowing where Tech is in the landscape of college football, you understand it. And Palmer, to your point, yes, you're right. Like, this is something that you had to do because of where this sport is headed. This sport demands money now more than ever. And also, I would say it demands liquidated funds more than ever in terms of actually having something you can do. So, bottom line, I like Jay Batt as an athletic director. I like what he's been able to do.
What kind of a name is Jay, by the way?
Palmer, you are ruining tomorrow night's show for me talking about Georgia Tech Notre Dame because I don't think people are going to want to tune into this channel ever again to hear about Tech.
I don't look. You were teetering already with some of the tweets you were getting today. People may not have watched anyway.
Like I think it's brutal, but it's the nature of the beast. Like this is the thing. It's the nature of the beast what you have to do. It is. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to go full on defense mode, but I understand it, but it sucks. Like they shouldn't do this, but they have to do it. Like, what's the alternative? Like, and I think that's the real problem here. Like, what is the alternative?
What does this say about Georgia Tech donors? I think it says really everything about them that this kind of comes. I hate to put the blame on fans and donors, but that's
that they allow this to happen.
They've allowed it to happen
because if an SEC school tried this, there would be an uprising. There would be, people waiting at the door of the athletic director and just, pitchforks. I mean, Tennessee fans got a coach fired before he was ever hired. They certainly wouldn't let a game, their rivalry game against Florida get moved to a neutral site or Alabama get moved to a neutral site.
Alabama in Nissan Stadium.
No.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say that with Tennessee or really, and there's not another school out there besides Vanderbilt that you could probably, give a fair comparison to because there's an NFL team and an NFL stadium in town. I mean, would Alabama go play in Birmingham against Auburn? They used to do it, but they wouldn't anymore.
They might. I mean, that was always a home game for Alabama, so it didn't matter.
Well, and I want to say
they wouldn't play it at Protective Stadium. Now, if they
I see the comment here from C. Andrew K. Georgia playing Florida at a neutral stadium, never. That's been happening for ages. That's not a move. It is a move that is done for money purposes, absolutely. But it's also a move that has some tradition behind it. And fans have over years and years and years have grown to love going down to St. Simon's and spending some time in Jacksonville, and the students embrace it. I mean, it's not a sellout move from Georgia.
I agree. I mean, there's a history, there's a tradition,
right? Yeah.
Of the Halloween weekend typically.
In fact, if you moved it from there, people would be like, "Well, what the heck are we doing?" Yeah, and this is a move made for recruiting purposes.
Yeah. Nancy says majority, and this is the icing on the cake. Nancy, I love you. You know that I appreciate you tuning in. Nancy, you're not wrong, but this is also part of what we're painting the picture here of. The majority of donors give to education rather than just football, because it's not what dominates. It's not what dominates it's not what dominates Tech alums' mind. I've heard every single excuse in the book this week about this, like every single one. Well, our alumni base is spread out, while a lot of Georgia's alumni base is probably just, staying in the state of Georgia. Like, what does that have to do with anything? It's about the buy-in of the program, whether you really care about your football program or not. Georgia cares more about their program than Georgia Tech does. I'll say this, Palmer, and this will be the last we'll talk about it. We'll move to Georgia, Texas. I have called and I've said Georgia Tech needs to stop comparing themselves to Georgia. You will never be that. There's no point in ever trying to do that. But you can do something different and still be competitive. Be the best version of yourself. Worry about yourself and stop this, because it's never going to be that. There are how much institutional things that don't allow it to be that.
What percentage of Tech fans would you say, and you probably have a better gauge on this, but what would you say the percentage of Tech fans that are upset by this move versus okaying it? Like, I don't know if that's an SEC, ACC thing. I don't know if that's a Georgia Tech thing. I don't know what that is, but it sounds like that it's not as that it's more 50-50, if anything.
Man, Palmer, I tried to say this on Monday the nicest way possible. I sat at Tiger Stadium, 102,000 people. Unbelievable. You and I really didn't get to talk about this. Unbelievable atmosphere. And it really clicked with me then. It's just different. It's the intensity in terms of donors, fan support. It's just different. And that's what it is. And so for the ACC schools outside of like Clemson and Florida State, and you can laugh all you want about Florida State, they will churn out money for a new coach if Mike Norvell fails there. Like they will just do it, and it won't be an issue for them. Majority of the programs, the ACC won't do that because it's not the highest valued asset that their institution or their program puts forth. And
I'd probably throw Miami in there as well.
Miami as well, yes. So it's just not that important. And so I think it's an ACC. I just think it's an SEC in certain Big Tens. It's just a difference. And stop trying to be something you're not. Like, you're not that. We've had a ton of comparison factors, the SEC and ACC. I think it's stupid to compare. They're two-way different leagues, two very different mindsets with what those leagues are trying to accomplish. And that's okay. It's all right. Be what you're going to be and stop worrying about it. But in retrospect, your question, wanted to get to it real quick. The Georgia Tech content creation sphere is a wild concept in itself. I will say that because there has been, and Will can speak to this because it's all been showing up on our social media fields, or social media spheres, I should say. Real quick, got to get to this. Miami fans, doesn't pay their stadium, doesn't matter. They got money. The people who want that program to be successful will keep trying to make it successful no matter what. It doesn't matter attendance. There's two words: brand value. 2 words. That's all people care about nowadays.
But hey, if Georgia Tech beats Miami, that's all that matters.
Which
that's
I
all we're going to hear.
Them to in the preseason, so that's all I talked about. All right. So, anyways, Paul, let me get to this real quick, and then we'll move to Georgia, Texas, because I know you got to go. The idea that this whole thing is created, I would say it's a 50-50 split. Like, there's some fans that are mad about it, mad about the inability to get tickets, and then there's this younger that's the older fan base, which the older portion of this fan base, and I'm not meaning to insult. But, they think that the fact that they had Bobby Dodd on the field at one point 127 years ago still matters in recruiting. So, like, they're not really in touch with what's going on anyways. So then you have the younger portion of the fan base that's very adamant, like, you guys would be selling your tickets to Georgia fans, whether it was at Bobby Dodd, whether it was in Columbus, Georgia, or whether it was in, Statesboro. It wouldn't matter because you just don't care to go, which I think is a very valid point for people who are getting mad about this. You're going to sell your tickets to Georgia fans at a hiked up cost no matter what. So that's it. And Nancy, once again, I'm not, you are very well educated and you understand what you're saying. It's trust. You have to trust the process. It's just a different process than it would be at other programs. And that's okay. That's fine. So that's kind of my final thoughts. Anything else you want? There, Palmer? We spent 20 minutes talking about this.
A game that doesn't happen for over a year from now.
God, I cannot wait till now. Is it, by the way, do we know, is this game going to be on Friday night? Do we know?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I wonder if that game's going to be on Friday night, because that's something that's interesting too. Okay, let's talk Georgia, Texas. Let's move on, please, God. No one's tuning into the Georgia Tech Notre Dame preview show tomorrow night. I've completely ostracized myself from the fan base, but it's okay. I was told, Palmer, on social media that I couldn't even name 5 Tech players, and so it is what it is.
Who do you even know here, Bryce?
I know nobody. That's what I shared. And I made a t-shirt. The guy told me
zip it and go back to your podcast.
Zip it and do your podcast. So that t-shirt is going to be on sale tomorrow, by the way, if you want to.
That statement in itself is just insane. How can you do a podcast if you got to zip it? I don't understand.
I don't know. It's an enigma. All right, Palmer, Georgia, Texas, you're heading out there. Texas, look, I mean, a lot of people are in on Texas right now. We talked about it on Monday. Even though their schedule hasn't been uber challenging, they've looked very balanced. They didn't seem to skip a beat with Arch Manning in there offensively. They bring back Quinn Ewers. All signs point to this being an opportunity for Texas to stake its claim as the best team in the country, while Georgia needs to make a statement maybe and I know Kirby Smart's not going to care about this, but in the eyes of the AP poll voters, which I don't think they have eyes after seeing the AP poll a couple weeks in a row now. But anyways, I digress. Your thoughts on this game, maybe some of the key matchups, and I mean, what are Georgia's chances? Like, what does Georgia have to do? I mean, obviously play better defense on the back end, I feel like would be a good start.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's where my eyes are going to be on the back end of each of these defenses and how Georgia's offense is able to attack a Texas defense that has not played a quarterback like Carson Beck. I heard a stat today in the power conference opponents they've played. They played a former walk-on making his second career start, and 2 true freshmen. They've not played a preseason Heisman Trophy contender like Carson Beck. They've not played a team as talented as Georgia is. And so I am very curious to see that in the way that Georgia tries to attack offensively. I think that second half of that Alabama game on, Carson Beck has been a different type of player, and this offense has looked differently. They've been much more comfortable passing it than they are running it. I think that'll continue to be the case, especially when you look at the running backs that they have. They don't have bruisers. They've got more versatile backs like Nate Frazier, like Trevor Etienne. Those 2 guys are going to be big, especially with Branson Robinson out after an MCL sprain. So I think that, Georgia is going to continue to try to throw the ball. I think Texas is smart to try and throw the ball on Georgia because the back end of this Georgia defense is struggling. We saw it against Alabama. We saw it against Mississippi State. And at times we saw it against Auburn. And so, to me, I'm watching these cornerbacks for Georgia, Dalen Everett, Julian Humphrey, Daniel Harris. Can Ellis Robinson crack the lineup, 5-star freshman? What does Janelle Aguero do at that star position? I feel good about Georgia's safeties. They've been really strong there with Malachi Starks, Dan Jackson. You can maybe make the case that Dan Jackson is the better of the 2 right now, and that says a lot because Malachi was an All-American last year. But I think that this game will be decided by how these pass defenses play.
Yeah, no, I like that. Will's dying. The comment section. Don't even look at it, Paul.
Perfect timing.
Okay,
perfect timing.
The whole roster. Yeah, Jonesy's actually Ralph, and Ralph's producing under a different name. I guess that's what that is. Palmer, back to you because I know we got to get you out of here. We got to get you out of here and get ready for this show. So let's get one more thought from you, and then Will and I will kind of take it over here from the Georgia-Texas perspective. You mentioned, a lot of different factors there. Running back room, you got to find something dynamic and healthy. And, Ralph, you can just keep loading those boxes over there, UPS pal. Bottom line, is it crazy to think, I know it's a 5-point spread, but I feel like people are trying to make me feel crazy for saying Georgia's going to go win this football game. Like, is that nuts?
My gut says Texas wins this game. And I honestly couldn't tell you the last time that I picked against Georgia on our site. Might have been that national championship game in 21, but I might not have done it then. I will be picking Texas when our predictions come out on Friday. And, I think that just it's less about Georgia and more about Texas. I think that this is a really good team. I think that these are 2 really good teams. I think that, we're talking about, I don't know that Georgia fans really came into this season fully comprehending how difficult this schedule is because they had to go to Alabama. They had to go to Texas. They still have to go to Ole Miss later this season. They got Tennessee, obviously Clemson, in the opener there. And that win is looking better and better by the week. And so I would pick Texas here. I think that Georgia has a big opportunity to make a statement, but I would say that Texas, as big of an opportunity as Georgia has to make a statement, I think Texas has that same opportunity to really solidify themselves as the top team in the country and solidify themselves as the top team in the SEC.
Palmer, I actually released a playoff projection just heading into week 8. I don't know if you saw this, but I had Georgia in the playoff, and I will spoil that. I think Texas wins this football game. Am I crazy for thinking a 10-2 Georgia team is in the playoff, wins over Ole Miss and Tennessee? Maybe
no. I think a 10-2 Georgia team is probably looking at like a 7 or 8 seed hosting a home playoff game.
Yeah,
and that's where my projection would be for Georgia right now.
I got you. Palmer Thombs on 3 Dogs HQ does a fantastic one. Albert Scott says, pick whomever the money is not on. That's because we suck at betting. And so whatever money we put on, Albert's taking the opposite. We appreciate it. Palmer, thanks so much for tuning in, though, brother. Or not tuning in, hopping in and talking and riling up this fan base more than they needed already here on a Wednesday evening.
I'm good for it.
I love it. I love it. Thanks so much. That's Palmer Thombs. All right. We appreciate Palmer tuning in. Will, let's get to kind of our thoughts on this game. I like what Palmer said. Like, there's a lot of questions for Georgia heading into this into this game. And I was talking with some of the LSU beat writers. I'm like, well, tell me why Georgia can't win it. Well, this, that, but like, man, it's still Kirby Smart. It's still a talented roster. And I think there is a little bit of truth. Now, look, I'm picking Texas. I think there's a little bit of truth, though, to the fact that Texas hasn't been tested by a passing game like Georgia. Now, for everything that Georgia can't do in the run game at times, they can do it in the passing game. It hasn't been clean, but if Carson Beck's clean, I mean, we talked about this on Monday. Like, if the Joker throws for 375 and 3 or 4 touchdowns and he doesn't throw a pick, that's doing a couple things. Well, it's might win you the football game. It might put you back on the track to go to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, and it might shoot your name back up the draft boards.
Yeah, but for me, the problem is Georgia's defense. I mean, it does not look like a Kirby Smart defense. And we've talked about it a lot of times. I think they severely lack star power. That's been the difference maker for them the last couple of years on both sides of the ball, but this year, especially on defense, they don't have necessarily that elite pass rusher. They don't necessarily have that lockdown corner, that guy that you do not throw to his side of the field. I don't think they have it this year.
The closest one's going to be Malachi Starks, and he's a great player.
Exactly.
And he's going to be a top 32 pick. I do agree. They don't have. They were so spoiled with that front seven that they had. They don't have that guy.
Yeah.
Michael Williams could be it. Jalen Walker can be that guy. It just hasn't been. Bottom line to me, it hasn't been consistent enough. But back to your thoughts.
Yeah, and like you mentioned it on Monday, they're really missing Tate Ratledge up front on that offensive line. Really, really missing him. That's been really the bulk of their problems on offense. I think is not having him in there. When this line came out at Texas -3, I love Texas at that number, but now it's creeped up to 5. I don't know. I don't know that Texas is gonna cover this. I think Texas definitely wins. I think this is going to be sneaky. I think this is, and I'm kind of going against myself. If you gamble, they say don't be afraid to fade yourself, and I think I'm fading myself a little bit here. I think it's going to be a tight game, might be low scoring, a bit.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Will? Do we lose you? You there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you completely froze on me there for a second. So restart.
It's Pete Gate in full force. This Joker just jumped up here and laid on my laptop. So I'm surprised he didn't shut the whole thing down. So we'll take it.
I like it. You want to wrap the thought up, or did you want to revisit it, or just don't even worry about it?
I guess you didn't hear my last part. I think Georgia.
No, I didn't hear the last point. I'm sorry.
We lost his thought. Okay. I think Georgia can cover this 5. I think it's this. We might be surprised. Might be a low scoring game. You think 2 high powered offenses going to be a lot of points. I'm kind of fading myself here. I love Texas when this line opened at 3, but now it's creeped up to 5. I don't love Texas so much. I think Georgia going to cover this, but it's going to be close. Maybe like a 3 or 4 point game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I am taking Texas to win close. I think Georgia. I'm interested where this line ends up. That's something I'm very interested to see. Does it creep up more? Does it come back down to 4? Does it hit at 4.5? Are we going to sit straight at 5? But I'm taking Texas to win, Georgia to cover. But I will say this. We're going to find out if the stats defensively for Texas are just a mirage, or if this is a really, really good Texas defense. If they win this, I mean, they're a pretty dang good football team, and they deserve to be number 1. But God knows what the AP poll voters will do. I mean, they don't even know what they're doing. There's a guy. Side note. Well, before we get out of this, real quick,
AP poll, they got 2 things right, and that's putting Army and Navy in the top 25. It's
well, they've got a guy on the AP poll voters. He's a beat writer for a minor league baseball team.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, like what? I don't know. Real quick, I wanted to circle back to this before we move to the next games. You had a final thought
Yes.
that you wanted to put on this Georgia Tech thing, so let's circle back real quick. Fire up that fan base even more because you've got a different perspective than Palmer does on this, and maybe more knowledge of the ins and outs of how these things happen. And we lost.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. There he is.
Yep, I'm here. But got all kind of problems. So a lot of Tech fans I've seen, obviously, they don't necessarily love playing a home game in Mercedes-Benz Stadium every year. I think that's crazy. I might be a little biased for reasons that you know, but I think Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a football cathedral, a Taj Mahal to play football games. If Auburn had a contract and they wanted to play in Atlanta every year at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I would be all over it because I think Mercedes-Benz Stadium is just might be the best football stadium in the world at the moment. I haven't been out to Vegas. I know they've got a really great stadium. Allegiant Stadium's really great, but for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're making great money on this game, clean old fashioned hate. But I just like the biggest issue for me with this whole idea is you're moving your biggest game every year to off campus, not in your home stadium. Like Tech plays Notre Dame in Mercedes-Benz on Saturday. That's the perfect game to play in Mercedes-Benz. They played Clemson in Mercedes-Benz in the past. I think it's great for a conference game. We went to that Louisville game, and it was great. But like I said before, there's some things that I don't think you sacrifice, and your biggest rival, you don't take that game off campus.
Yeah, and I'd love to know what the negotiations was. It like, hey, we're never gonna know the ins and outs of this. You'd have to subscribe to a certain site to probably be able to get that type of knowledge and information. But
or I have to swear you to secrecy.
True, that's also true. The conversations with Jay Bat are.
I was going to say the little bit that I know about it is, and I laugh at the Tech fans, that think it's this great deal, which it is a good deal because you're making a couple more million off this game than you would if you had it in Bobby Dodd. But you just think about the money that Mercedes-Benz is going to make off this game. I mean, it's that $10 million is basically nothing. Yeah, it's pennies. It's pennies.
Yeah.
So if you want to say it's a great deal, it's a good deal. Tech could have gotten more money out of this, I think.
Well, they're too distracted by arguing with Georgia State to realize anything else. So that's that. Dada Bob says, don't hate on minor league baseball. Dada Bob, I don't. And I love minor league baseball more than you know, and we might see something happen with that. We'll see. We'll see. We will see. I don't know, man. After Saturday, that I called Ralph. I was like, I don't know, buddy. That was last Saturday night, and Tiger Stadium almost sold it. Okay, let's move on. We were talking for 33 minutes, and I don't know what we talked about. Alabama, Tennessee. Let's get this one real quick because this is the other big SEC game on the slate. Now, LSU, Arkansas is going to be a big game, I think, in terms of SEC, what's going to happen. But this is interesting because 3 weeks ago, Will, we sat here, we talked about Nico. We said, hey, this guy, most talented quarterback, I still believe that he is, but he's looked like a freshman. I think you put that pretty well when you talked about, just what he has looked like. And we've seen the best of Nico. We've also seen the freshman level of Nico. The scary part is this is the worst version of Nico you're going to see if you're a Tennessee fan and you're a fan of the SEC. Alabama comes into this, man, they can't guard anything. The back end of that defense has been pitiful and pretty much bad all year. Like, when you really look at it, it's been very bad outside of a couple quarters here and there. Just think about this, okay? Alabama played in week 1 against who? TJ Finley in Western Kentucky. TJ Finley's now been benched. Essentially, they played well against the second string quarterback at Western Kentucky. Who's hanging their hat on that? USF, you played pretty rough, in my opinion, for the first 2.5 quarters. Then your offense and Ryan Williams kind of bailed you out towards the back half of it. Georgia, you looked lost in the second half. Like, no adjustments made. Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt won that football game. They scored 40 points on you. Then obviously with what happened with South Carolina, I'm concerned if I'm an Alabama fan rolling into Neyland. This is a very vulnerable Alabama team. Jalen Milroe doesn't even look like, the Jalen Milroe that we've seen. And Will, you know what? Credit to you. You're starting to see that when this guy can't freelance, it's a problem for Alabama's offense.
Yep.
That's an issue. So your thoughts on this matchup? The opportunity is here for Tennessee to not just to get a big win over a massive rival, but really to get themselves back in the conversation of, hey, remember this team? They could win the whole thing this year.
Yeah, when this line first came out, my first thought was, well, that's backwards. That's a backwards line. But after thinking at it and looking at some numbers, it might be dead on. I think Alabama might be a smaller favorite than 3, I think. Because I think for Tennessee, this is not a really good matchup. The strength of the Tennessee offense is running the ball. Strength of Alabama's defense is stopping the run. So push is going to come to shove. Tennessee leads the conference in rushing, 246 yards a game. Dylan Sampson is a stud at tailback. I mean, I don't know that it's going to matter what Alabama does. I think he's going to have a good game. He may not have a big game, but I think he'll have a good game. But I think Tennessee, I should say, just has to do enough in the run game to keep that Alabama secondary honest. Because if Alabama stops the run and they make Nico throw it, I think it's going to be trouble for Tennessee. But it depends. It's all a wild card to me, because watching that South Carolina game, I'm saying, what is Kane Womack doing? Like he seemed like he was hesitant to rush the passer until the very end, and then it worked. So why didn't he do this the whole game? So if they can put pressure on Nico, he's looked like a freshman, and he'll play like a freshman if you pressure him. This is about as close to a toss-up, I think, as we have in any game this weekend.
I wanted to say this. Matt Hubbard says, gentlemen, sorry I'm late. Vols -2.5. Vols -2.5.
Where'd you get that
He also
number?
goes Horns -10.5. I think he's just his own bookie right now. I think that he's creating his own line. Everyone will, and to your point, remembers for the Alabama defense the end of the Georgia game. Like, that's what sticks out in everyone's mind. Georgia comes back, they're throwing the ball over the yard. But instead of a full-blown meltdown, it's just been like this steady drip. And I think the steady drip is the biggest concern for Alabama's defense. Against Vanderbilt, you allowed them to convert on 67% of their third down tries. Last week against South Carolina, Lenora Sellers in that offense, not 100% Lenora Sellers, by the way, completed it at a 50% clip. Tennessee, second in the nation in third down stops. The defense is also overall second in the nation in general and total yardage, and then plays in the backfield. They're continuing to be disruptive back there. It hasn't been as dominant against the weaker part of the schedule. But
Tennessee, that defense, I love Tennessee's defense. As I'm with our buddy Sam, though, Tim Banks probably should be updating his resume. I think he might be holding that defense back. And I told him when Tennessee hired him a couple years ago, Rodney Garner, that defensive line is going to be nasty. You're going to have one of the best defensive lines in the country. Just give them a chance. And that's what they have. You talk about those plays in the backfield, that havoc rate that they create. That's that defensive line. They're really good.
Yeah.
They're really good. Second in the SEC in total and rushing yards, fourth in giving up passing yards. Can they contain Jalen Milroe?
I like it. I like that. Can they contain
I don't know.
him? I mean,
he's so good with his legs that you have to say, can they contain him? Because if you get to him, he's fast enough to just run out of there. So you got to just contain him.
And like I said earlier, when he's not freelancing, this offense struggles. Now they're still electric. They don't run the ball as much as they have in past. I mean, Iverson, everyone knows the kid's 17 years old. That's awesome. That's good stuff. They've got a lot to really utilize, but I don't know. I mean, Alabama's still a talented football team. I wanted to read this stat right here, which is interesting to me. The Tennessee secondary and the pass defense, they really haven't been exposed this season. But here's something that's interesting. You mentioned, can you contain Jalen Milroe? Taylon Green went off for 279 yards. Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway last week went off for 223. And the first time all season, this Tennessee defense has given up a multi-touchdown pass game. Alabama's offense might not be as clean. They may not finish in the red zone as much as they have been, Will. but they can still throw the bombs. And I think this Tennessee offense is going to be able to get in a shootout. I think this game could be a shootout because I don't know if either defense is going to be able to really, really shut down each other. It might come to big momentum plays. I'm gonna take Tennessee in the 3 points though. I think
Yep.
I think the Vols cover this, and I think they can win the football game. But I don't know. I'm not going to go straight up pick. I'm just going to take Vols +3.
Yep, I'm with you. Same
like it.
here. So that means Alabama's going to win by 3 touchdowns.
Exactly. Well, we'll all point back to the fact that Jonesy said Bama's winning big. He said Alabama's going to live and die by the mildew. He said, "Can you pick the Jeff Sims game?" Jeff Sims getting the start for Arizona State this week, by the way, and might be
no wonder that line is the way that it is. I saw that line. I was confused.
That's my best bet of the week. All right, real quick, let's go ACC game. Miami Louisville. Well, this is a big opportunity. We'll touch on this one quickly. We'll get the games to watch. You got a team in Louisville that's kind of on the ropes in terms of being able to contend for an at-large playoff spot. Louisville still very much alive.
And in turn for the ACC.
Yeah, I mean, you can't lose this game and really think you're going to get to the ACC, championship. I'll tell you, if you're a Tech fan, you better be cheering for Louisville because you don't want Louisville to be a 2-loss team because they'll hold the tiebreaker over you, in my opinion, at least. Miami's a 5-point, favor on the road. They've been teetering with getting upset. Will, your thoughts? Is this the week that they finally get upset? Tyler Shuck and that offense for Louisville has been very good this season through the air. Your thoughts on this matchup? Where does it lean? And does Miami slip up? Do they finally bite the bullet and slip up here?
No, not this week. I think Miami delivers the knockout punch this week. It just kind of feels like it's time for Miami to kind of wake up. I mean, they're still on this road trip thing in their schedule. I think they deliver the knockout. I think this 5, part of me is because it's this 5-point spread. I mean, home team usually gets 3 points, but I think Miami on paper is a lot better. But it's, as it always is with Miami, they have to show up and play. But I think they do it this week. I think they deliver knockout punch. Louisville, like you said, they're on the ropes. They lost a game at home that they probably should have won a couple weeks ago. So they're not this, formidable force necessarily at home. And it's also a noon kick, which is an advantage for Miami too. But I think Miami is going to deliver the knockout punch to Louisville here and not just win, but they're going to cover that 5, I think.
Well, Will, I mean, I've said it in the preseason. I think Miami's going to be undefeated rolling into Atlanta, and I'm going to stick with it here. I think Cam Ward is dynamic, but he's also the most nonchalant quarterback we've ever seen in college football. Have you noticed that, by the way? The Joker just kind of looks like he doesn't care. Now, I'm not saying that don't clip that. I'm not saying that he doesn't care, but he's so comfortable in the pocket and his own abilities. It's he looks pretty confident back there. I'm taking Miami to cover.
His body language in the pocket reminds me of the old Mizzou quarterback, James Franklin. Remember him?
Oh, wow.
Early 2010s.
Yeah.
That Joker, I thought for the longest time, the way he took the snap and just kind of was just so relaxed in the pocket, I was like, that dude's going to get his head knocked off standing around like that. Like, he's not bracing for a hit at all. But that's kind of who he reminds me of just because of how comfortable he is.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. We're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we gotta pay some bills here. When we come back, we'll go games to watch and our best bets right here, right after this. Hey everyone, Bryce Koon here with the Crowded Booth, and I'm excited to partner with Milton and Drew McCluskey as they get on their new venture, the Cajun Cousins Company. It's an all-stop shop for some of the best food and atmosphere entertainment that you're going to be able to have, especially this fall as college football is right around the corner. What is Cajun Cousins Company? Well, Milt decided to start this business back in Columbia, South Carolina. That's where they're based out of. Drew initially joined him after spending some time with the Saints, but they offer catered Cajun delicacies such as crawfish boils and Aunt Dottie's jambalaya. They bring everything and they can set up anywhere. Look, folks, they're passionate about giving people a reason to gather and to get to the culture that they love so much. They're expanding that brand to the low country of South Carolina, the upstate area, and other areas of the Southeast. So look, if you're going to throw that tailgate party or you're going to have a big gathering, reach out to Cajun Cousins Company today over at CajunCousinsCO.com to get that quote. Tell them the Crowded Booth sent you. We can't wait to see what they have in store this fall. Check out Cajun Cousins. Come to do a great job, obviously, up there in the low country of South Carolina, but they'll come anywhere and give you a good time. That sounded weird. That's going to be not good. And I don't know why I said that. I'm fallen prisoner to that a couple times here. All right, Will, let's talk here about games to watch. I want to touch on one, and I want to get your thoughts before we really move too far into this. I don't know if you have a couple. Georgia Tech, Notre Dame. You know, what's your thought on this game? We did a Behind Emmy Lines podcast episode. You can go check that out on the channel. Really good insight from the Notre Dame side of things, from Irish Breakdown. Just your thoughts. You're going to be in the building on Saturday for this one. Will be there. Will you be in a box? You going to be in a suite?
I will not. I will be sitting lower end zone.
Lower end zone. Nice. All right. Well, we'll tell people where to find you. That seat and that road number. No, seriously.
I will give it out. I don't care.
You don't care.
Although I probably should, because I'm not going to make them very happy. This spread is 11.5. I love Notre Dame. I love Notre Dame minus 11.5. Which is not great for my wallet, because if Georgia Tech wins this game, I cash 2 win total picks.
Can you say that louder for the people that think that you hate Georgia Tech? Can you tell them what you did in the preseason?
I have Georgia Tech over 5 wins. I thought Vegas was crazy thinking that they would only win 5. And they've won 5 of 7. They started the year 5-2. So I'm happy. I am happy that Georgia Tech is 5-2. I think Georgia Tech has played really well this year. Obviously proved me and everybody else wrong, especially me, since I had Florida State as my best bet in week 0. That they won that game. But I have Notre Dame under 10.5 wins. They've already got 1 loss. If Georgia Tech wins this game, my wallet's happy. But I like Notre Dame in this game. Riley Leonard, it just
he's improved.
I get just a nasty feeling in my stomach, thinking that this guy from right down the road and Auburn didn't want him. Think how much better would Auburn be if Riley Leonard was Auburn's quarterback? That's all I'm saying. And his girlfriend goes to Auburn. But no, he obviously made the right decision going to Notre Dame. He's had a really good year, and he's really, really good. I mean, his running ability has really surprised me. I know last year he dealt with several ankle leg injuries that really, I think, hurt his running ability with Duke. But he's fully healthy, and he's just been nearly unstoppable. I mean, he's hard to stop. And, unless Romello Height gets in there and gets him on the ground for a lot of the game, I don't know if Georgia Tech necessarily has. You kind of have to spy him at this point. And he doesn't look all that fast, but he's a really good runner. And I don't know who Georgia Tech is gonna spy him with. They've got enough talent at wide receiver that I don't know that you can have a safety or a corner spy on him. You definitely can have a corner spy on him. I don't think it's a good matchup for Georgia Tech. And there are some rumblings about some injury problems for Georgia Tech that make me like Notre Dame even more.
I mean, Gavin says this. I mean, this is Haynes King playing. I mean, that's going to be the biggest question.
That's the question.
That's the question. I mean, if he's not playing, and we will neither confirm nor deny the reports the sources that have told the Crowded Booth one way or the other.
He's banged up. I mean, if he plays, he definitely won't be 100%.
Yeah. Also, that's a great way to put it. If he plays this game, he is not 100%. I can tell you that. That's the best way to put it. People say, well, everyone knows that. Well, it's okay. Then good. Like, congratulations. We'll talk more about that full preview tomorrow night. It's
a big spread. 11.5 makes me nervous, but I just don't think it's a good matchup for Georgia Tech on either side. I mean, especially if there's no Haynes King, you don't have the threat of quarterback run. It might even be a long day for Jamal Haynes.
They'll be able to zero in on that. It's a lot on the shoulders of Zach Pyron, by the way. If he has to play and carry the load in this game, a lot on the shoulders of Zach Pyron, who did it 2 years ago, went up to Virginia Tech and beat them. But you just don't know, and we just haven't seen him be thrust in that. And so we'll have to see. I mean, I like Zach Pyron. I don't know to what extent that he's comfortable in this offense, and not just comfortable in practice, but comfortable doing it in the game. So that's kind of one of the games to watch. I want to throw in there. Will, any from you? Games that you're keeping an eye on. I'll say LSU Arkansas. That's going to be an SEC matchup that I'm going to obviously keep an eye on for business reasons. But That's another good
That's going to be a rough, nasty game. I think that's going to be like old school SEC. I think, and that's kind of what Arkansas does. They kind of do that to everybody. They drag just about everybody they played this year. They drag into a rock fight. Maybe not the Auburn game wasn't necessarily a rock fight. That was just disgusting. That was like
football.
That was like a high school football game. What else? Kentucky, Florida, be a fun one in the swamp. Kentucky right now a 1.5 point favorite. Kentucky's Florida, no Graham Mertz for the rest of the year. It's going to be DJ Lagway the rest of the way. There was another game that I saw. Obviously, Army and Navy. I'll be watching. I'll be checking in on those. Is this the week UAB pulls the plug on Trent Dilfer?
Please God.
I saw a tweet today.
You know what the worst part about it? Go ahead. Sorry, finish that thought.
I was going to say, I saw a tweet today. I think they credited USA Today with this. His buyout's only like $4 million. So what are they waiting on?
Your former coordinator, who you didn't hire, has ULM 5-1. Brian Vincent,
and he's going to beat Auburn.
So there you go, General Booty. You can have General Booty in Birmingham.
The Beamer Bowl, the Beamer Bowl too. South Carolina goes to Oklahoma.
Yes, South Carolina. Oklahoma.
That is another game that is probably just going to be horrific to watch if you like watching offense. Unfortunately, both those teams having quarterback issues. But a lot of promise at the quarterback position for both teams, but not so good this year. But yeah, you're right. A very physical game.
Wanted to get a couple from the comments section. Dr. Bob says Oregon at Purdue on Friday night is intriguing. If Oregon loses this game, I'm taking them out of my playoff altogether because I think Purdue is horrid.
Yes,
but Purdue.
This is not Jeff Brom.
Purdue. This ain't Jeff Brom Purdue. I mean, I understand it, but if they lose this game, I'm fire Dan Lanning. Like, I'll just say it. No, I'm just kidding. That's overreaction. That's called an overreaction. We don't do that on the show. Joe the Pilot, who I think he thought he hurt your feelings last week.
No, you did not. You did not hurt my feelings. No. Look,
he really genuinely wants to know Auburn, Mizzou, who wins it. He thinks Auburn wins this week. Homecoming for Mizzou up there. So we'll give your thoughts on that game real quick.
I'll get to that in a minute.
All right. Sounds good. Best bets. Let's rock and roll. Some games to watch. Let's roll with Ralph's first. Ralph has taken Iowa -6 at Michigan State. Will, you kind of like this too?
We're on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good one. Ralph needs a win because I'm creeping up on him. I'll go with mine next. Rutgers -4.5 at home versus UCLA. The inability for teams to go across UCLA is terrible. They are horrible. And Deshaun Foster doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, like
they're in Los Angeles.
They are in the city of angels. That is true. Not in Anaheim, if you thought that. UCLA going cross country to Rutgers, as Ralph calls them. Physical football game. I don't think it's gonna. I think it's. I like Rutgers -4.5.
They were not Rutgers last week against Wisconsin. Yeah, I love Rutgers too. UCLA's bad.
When you take a bad team and you make them travel across the country, I mean, I don't know what we're doing here. This feels like free money.
Yeah, it does. The only thing about Rutgers, and they were on the multi-view last week because Rutgers is almost always appointment television.
Yeah.
They got down and they did not change their game plan. It did not seem like, I mean, I was not paying all that much attention. They just seem like they're like from the 80s. We're going to run it 3 times, and if we get a first down, great. If we don't, we're going to punt it. I mean, that just kind of
let our defense maybe score.
Yeah, it seems like it's Greg Schiano's game plan. Yeah. But, something to be said. They know who they are.
All right.
So, sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't.
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. 1-6. Let's get locked in. Will, let him know. Let him know what you got here.
I'm taking the Missouri Tigers -4. This line has shocked me ever since it came out. I think it opened at 6. So obviously Vegas has no clue how to set a line for an Auburn game, and for good reason, because Auburn could just magically put it all together one week. We've seen Auburn put it together for maybe a quarter or two in just about every game. And then something catastrophic happens. Auburn just self-destructs and can't do anything right.
Yeah.
I've been high on Missouri all year. Maybe not as high as you were, Bryce, but I've been high on Missouri. I think they're really, really good. I love what Eli's done up there.
Luther Burden's probable. That's a game changer.
Luther Burden is probable, which means he'll most likely play. Even if he doesn't, how is Auburn going to cover Theo Weiss and Mookie Cooper, even if there's no Luther Burden?
Kindly.
It's a bad matchup for Auburn. I don't know how Auburn's going to be able to stop Mizzou. I just saw the comments. I don't know how Auburn's going to stop Mizzou enough. I mean, Auburn's only chance is to make this a track meet, but Auburn's offense has been consistent enough to make games a track meet. They've been efficient, but at times, if they just don't turn the ball over. Another thing about Mizzou, they don't turn the ball over. They're
no second chances.
No. It's going to be tough for Auburn, and I think this number's too low. I think this is going to be just about every other Auburn game. Auburn's going to stay in it and then just shoot themselves in the foot. And the quarterback and the head coach are going to fight each other over plays, and it's going to cost Auburn the game.
I'll say this. Missouri's not the team we thought they were going to be.
They are not.
They're not going to hand you a game. You have to beat Missouri. And the problem with me at Auburn is, to me, with their turnover issues and lack of consistency, it's really hard for Auburn just to go flat out beat somebody.
Mm-hmm.
They need help.
Auburn's not good enough to just roll the ball out there and beat anybody. That's Auburn roster wise is not going to be. There might be two teams left on the schedule that you might say, yeah, Auburn's got a better roster than them, and that's even questionable.
ULM
and Vanderbilt, not at the quarterback position, but I mean, it's hard to say that too because of how well Vanderbilt has played, but
yeah,
maybe that's a maybe. Auburn might only be roster wise be better than one team left on the schedule because Kentucky top to bottom is more talented than Auburn.
Yeah. Brutal.
It's brutal. It's brutal time at Auburn. Gavin says I need to learn the creed.
Joe, Will's so down bad right now.
When I bet on my team, they still lose.
Whatever Will's betting right now, he loses. I mean, honestly, if we're just being real.
And maybe this is some of my reverse luck. Maybe I'm trying to help myself here.
There you go. I like it. Help the Auburn program. It's gonna be a fun week of college football. It is gonna be great. Cannot wait. Week 8 college football. Will, you are going to be in the building in Mercedes-Benz for that 3:30 Eastern kickoff. We'll be live right post-game here on the channel for that one, recapping. And if you want a preview, if you want some more information on games, obviously, if you're a Georgia Tech fan, we had a Behind Enemy Lines podcast on the channel with Irish Breakdown. Great stuff, insider stuff on what Notre Dame is, what the feeling is for Notre Dame fans coming into this game. They respect Georgia Tech a lot, by the way. They do. They view this as a legitimate test, regardless of the line. And then, Will, I'm going to say this tomorrow, but Georgia Tech's kind of team that feel like that Brent Key wants to pull down into a rock fight. That's what he wants to do. And that would benefit Tech in this game and obviously going forward their schedule. So it'll be a lot of fun. Tune in tomorrow night, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern for that preview, and then obviously on Saturday. And man, we'll
find me on Saturday. I'll be in. Funny enough, Section 102. Funny how that works.
We're at Section 103, but that's okay.
Well, close enough.
One away. You're one away.
One away.
C. Andrew wants to know the prediction on GT fans versus Ben Moore. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. And people didn't learn self-control and when they were younger, and it shows in different ways. That's the whole thing I'll say about that. It's ridiculous. Will, you need to learn the creed. Hey, Will does not know this. We might be having a nice behind enemy or not what do we call it? Inside the Booth podcast interview coming up soon, by the way. Will doesn't know. Auburn fans will want to tune into that one. So we'll catch you next time. Crowd of Booth. Oh, what kind of tone are you going to be setting here, Will?
I'll just be relaxing, watching a football game. That's the tone.
Will relaxing, watching a football game. You don't see that too often in the fall. But it is what it is. We'll catch you next time here in the Crowd of Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The crowded booth is coming on. The crowded booth with Bryce Koon.